everybody. Reporting to you again from the Glamour City, Hollywood.
While at the same time combating, food inflation, which has been running far faster and higher than overall inflation, worker shortages, all kinds of different challenges that they face. So being able to be, nimble and quick is really important. I think it also has highlighted just how risky it is to, build and operate a brick and mortar, store. And so one of the things that many chefs find exciting about the Hungry platform is they can start their own business, build a very successful business without needing any capital to get started. It also provides a whole lot more lifestyle flexibility, so they can pick and choose when they want to be available to cook versus not. So a lot less nights and weekends kind of work, and they can typically make quite a bit more than a typical chef career path.
If you love listening to this show, please consider giving a rating and a review on Amazon Alexa or wherever you listen. We want to continue bringing you this amazing content, and part of our ability to do that means that we need a big audience. Now, it may not seem like much, but rating and reviewing the show will help more people find us, just like how you found this show. Simply on any podcast platform, search for a show, scroll down to the bottom, and push 5 stars. It's that easy. Thanks for supporting the show. Today, I'm joined by Jeff Grass, CEO of Hungry. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so you run marathons, and the reason I bring it up is I have somebody that runs events.com, and he also runs marathons, and he says that some of the most ambitious and overachievers are marathon runners. So I'm curious to know about your regimen and how that maps into your life, both entrepreneurial, but also other parts of your life.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit of a glutton for punishment, right? In terms of willing to endure over a longer period of time, a little bit of pain and also just a lot of preparation and training that goes into it too, I suppose. But this is my fourth company as an entrepreneur, and it's very much more of a marathon than a sprint. And although sometimes it feels like you're running as fast as you can every day, you got to really chart it out and make sure you're in it for the long haul, and you're making the progress you need to get to the finish line. So yeah, that's a good parallel. You're right.
It really is, and I like the marathon metaphor because of the fact that with paymybills.com, that started back in the heydays of .com, really, and very fortunate that you were able to sell just before things started to deteriorate. But you've seen the .com, you've seen the 2008, and of course we've seen the more recent COVID as well as the current quasi-recession, let's say. So that brings us to what is Hungry and how are you guys navigating these many changes and external factors?
Yeah. Well, Hungry is a platform that provides a range of amazing office food solutions. So think like catering, events, snacks, etc. And what makes us very unique is we primarily partner with top local chefs. We have restaurant partners too, but about 3/4 of our business runs through great local chefs that work out of shared kitchens, ghost kitchens, incubator kitchens. And so we help provide a very much of a managed food service for our clients. We own all of the delivery and the service to make it highly reliable and VIP level service, but really don't own or operate kitchens or make the food ourselves. So it's a really nimble, flexible solution that in today's world is proving to be incredibly valuable.
And I wonder if you could help us walk through some of the pivots that I'm sure must have taken place. So when you started in 2017, food delivery certainly was the craze back then. And then you had the pandemic and contact and social settings that became hugely problematic. And then as things started to open up, food delivery and just general delivery service has started to slow down quite a bit. And people are wanting to actually experience things for themselves outside. So I'm curious to know how all of these things are affecting your business and how you've had to reinvent yourself over and over again.
Yeah, it's been for only over about a 6 year period. It's amazing how much change has happened. um, we we were on a rocket ship, growing really fast. We had launched into 5 different cities, showed we could launch a new market, turn it profitable in about a year, and had a plan to be in, I think, 20 plus cities over the next year or two. And in March of 2020, the whole world fell apart. And being a platform for office and event catering, I don't think you could pick a worse industry to be in. Suddenly no one was in the office, no, events were happening, and we saw millions of dollars of sales just evaporate over about a 3-week period, and that did force us to get creative. We chose a path that was a little bit different than most. We decided we were going to innovate our way through the pandemic rather than fire and furlough, which was the conventional wisdom that most of the financial community was sort of recommending, including some of our investors. Was you got to preserve capital, you got to eliminate those costs immediately, but we really focus a lot on team and culture and environment, and really felt like we've got to try to find an alternative way. And so we looked at the changed world. We looked at our platform in terms of the unique capabilities we have around logistics and delivery and our chefs. And started to roll out a series of new business lines very quickly to see if we could find a quick sort of product market fit. And luckily, 2 of them just took off quite quickly. One was a last mile delivery service that had really grown quite quickly, and then another was a virtual experience solution. And we ended up tripling the business in the first 2 years of COVID. So it was pretty remarkable, from growing quickly to zero to it growing even way faster than before, and scaling up quite quickly.
Can you talk about the virtual experience and just kind of elaborate on that?
Sure. So we have a wide range of amazing chefs and on our platform. For our corporate catering business, we have, I think, close to 500 now across the country. And amongst them, there's many that have really exciting backgrounds, celebrities, chefs, sommeliers, mixologists, and have great personalities. And so we took a subset of our chefs and created what we call virtual experiences, or VX. We assemble kits that include all of the items you need to participate along with the chef, in an experience. And then it's essentially a group, typically cooking or mixology experience, with a great chef or mixologist. And it's designed to be very engaging, very fun, very hands-on. So clients use it for both client engagement and team engagement types of solutions. So obviously it grew quite quickly with the pandemic, but we're still seeing, with a lot more remote work and work from anywhere, still an ongoing need for solutions like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about the chefs themselves, and
Sure.
recognizing that they've also had to go through quite a bit of change for themselves. Running a restaurant, being a high-end chef, is very demanding to begin with, and then of course the pandemic must have impacted them one way or another. Including some of the celebrity ones. They had to shut down some of their units, their locations, for instance. So they've had to learn the hard way, and certainly the ghost kitchen has come into play as well. How are they potentially mitigating risk, and how is this a channel or platform that makes sense for them, and why?
Yeah, there's been a lot of change, right, in brick and mortar. COVID obviously shifted, demand for delivery, skyrocketed while on-site, shrank a lot. We're still finding, what is that new normal? The demand of, just in terms of consumption of meals during the workday at home versus in the office has also shifted and is now, evolving quickly again with return to office. So it certainly, I don't envy our friends on the restaurant side, wild shifts in the way people want to engage and how they want to operate, while at the same time combating, food inflation, which has been running far faster and higher than overall inflation, worker shortages, all kinds of different challenges that they face. So being able to be, nimble and quick is really important. I think it also has highlighted just how risky it is to, build and operate a brick and mortar, store. And so one of the things that many chefs find exciting about the Hungry platform is they can start their own business, build a very successful business without needing any capital to get started. It also provides a whole lot more lifestyle flexibility, so they can pick and choose when they want to be available to cook versus not. So a lot less nights and weekends kind of work, and they can typically make quite a bit more than a typical chef career path. So I think platforms that create kind of new avenues, alternative career paths, I think are in higher demand now too.
It's very interesting. Can you give us somewhat of a percentage breakdown in terms of, let's say, chefs that are currently operating brick and mortar restaurants versus, let's say, those that are kind of the independent freelance new way of operating model?
Yeah. So, well, in terms of a breakdown, I can describe the two different types of roles. Obviously, still, in terms of where most chefs are, is still in the traditional role. But I'd say the comparison for us would be, if you're a chef working in a restaurant kitchen, how much that you might make, generally it's not that much, right? Even an executive chef in a fairly well-established restaurant might make, $80,000-$90,000 a year. Like you're not getting rich. If you're the owner, perhaps, or if you're the owner of many different restaurants, perhaps, but it's hard to become that. Because corresponding with Hungry, we have chefs that make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month on our platform, and so they'll share. I'm making more money I've ever seen before. So it is really, I think, attractive, from a financial perspective, but that lifestyle flexibility is also a big driver we see. It is just a hard career, being a full-time professional chef. Again, mostly nights and weekends. It's long hours on your feet, and so that also takes its toll, especially if you're a female chef and you want to create a family. It's just hard to do both. I hear over and over again from female chefs.
And one of the things I think you mentioned with Hungry is the ability to handle the logistics, and I think that's really critical. So I wonder if you could first help us to understand the traditional way of catering and how Hungry as a platform is really changing and making the venue of catering much more dynamic, let's say. Yeah. So, maybe it's starting with, our primary client are companies, organizations that want to bring food into the office, right? So, it's anywhere from, 10, 20 people to, 500 to 1,000 at the upper ends. Generally, if you get more than that, sometimes you start to build on-site cafes and cafeterias. But so we really, play in that off-site, catering, off-premise catering / restaurant delivery space. So when you think about the available solutions today, it's use a traditional caterer. They tend to be, a little bit pricey and more expensive. And what we constantly hear from clients is, everything kind of tastes the same after a while, right? If we're using the same caterer every day. The other option is I order from restaurants, but it's hard to order from the same restaurant every single day, right? Because my team doesn't like that. They want variety. And so I'm forced to, if I'm the person responsible, use a different restaurant every single day. But that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of effort, and it creates a lot of challenges around reliability. Levels of service you receive are also quite variable. And most restaurants really aren't designed to feed larger teams, to bring food in for 50 or 100 people and then execute that in a seamless way. So there's just lots of friction that the person responsible for ordering food has. It takes a lot of time. There's lots of hassles and headaches around reliability, around the quality of service, and always trying to fit that inside a pre-approved budget. And so that's really what set us out to create Hungry, is really a platform that's designed around those core challenges, those problems, and how do we solve it in a fundamentally better way. And it seems to be working. We're growing triple digits year over year, and
and really excited about providing our clients a better solution.
Now, help us understand in terms of both onboarding, but also your internal vetting process of different types of chefs, let's say, to ensure that the quality and the consistency is going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. What's exciting is when we tap into great local chefs, that cook out of local kitchens. They'll have to be licensed commercial kitchens. We do a lot of vetting and screening of those chefs. So we do tastings of every single dish. We work to make sure they have high levels of reliability and consistency as well in the food that they prepare. We do temping upon pickup. We weigh the proteins. There's lots of different things that we do both at the front end as well as ongoing to ensure consistency. We have very strict portioning guidelines as well. So as clients order from different chefs each day, it's always the same amount of food regardless of who's making it. So lots of things that we've done and innovated on to make it a very consistent experience for our clients. And to really ensure high quality. And what's nice, though, is when you're working with an independent chef cooking out of these shared kitchen locations, it's a very low-cost way to produce food. So you can still get really high quality, really talented chefs making, their best dishes, really authentic food, really bringing out their individual talents, but at a much lower cost structure. And so it allows you to get, high-end sort of chef-level quality at a Panera or sub-Panera price point.
Amazing. Now, let's talk about adjusting for the climate. So we're in a persistent inflationary environment. You mentioned food prices and the fact that there's rising interest rates, right? And then the fact that you got the backdrop of labor softness in terms of companies either stop hiring or laying off. And of course, budgets, including budget for catering, must be also shrinking as well. How are you, as well as the chefs, adjusting for that in such a way that it still makes the offering compelling?
Yeah, so you're right. There's actually two big trends that are happening right now, and they're kind of running a little bit against each other. Return to office. So companies are definitely increasing their push to have their teams back in the office. And there's a wide range of strategies. We have some clients that are the old school 5 day a week, everybody's got to be in, to 1 day a week. And so RTO, return to office, is definitely driving, significant growth in demand for office food. While at the same time, as you pointed out, interest rates are rising, economy's slowing, budgets are getting cut, companies are looking for ways to reduce spend. So that's another sort of counter trend. So RTO, companies wanting people back. Also, I need to mention food has been proven to be one of the most effective ways of encouraging people to come back. So, it's really the carrot, can work well as opposed to just the stick to get people back to the office. So more spending on food to get people back, but budget cuts at the same time, right? And so what we're currently seeing is RTO is outweighing, the budget cutting. But it's definitely creating, more dislocation. So some clients are adding while others are shrinking. We're also seeing interesting trends around companies that have the traditional on-site cafe or cafeterias. These are very expensive, operations. They take up a lot of space. Having an on-site commercial kitchen, huge expense. You're spending millions of dollars to build it and maintain it. And then you have full-time staff there to make food and run it. And so if companies are only operating, 1, 2, 3 days a week in the office, they just don't make any financial sense at all. And so as companies are looking at how do we reduce costs, they're starting to shut down those on-site kitchens. Or when they open new office space, we're seeing companies that aren't building kitchens, and they want to recapture that space to use for team meetings and other, kinds of ways of using it. So we are seeing, that what used to be the upper end of the market for us starting to move to more off-premise. So that's also creating really interesting opportunities for us. So it's a tough market in that, there's these currents that are moving in different directions, but we seem to be navigating it pretty well. We grew over 100% last quarter, year over year. So I think we're finding a way to navigate, but it's certainly not, easy sailing.
Absolutely. Let's talk about food waste. It's traditional brick and mortar restaurants,
Mhm.
unless they're really high end and they're only driven by reservations, for the most part, they don't know exactly how many diners are going to be coming in, and they don't know exactly. They have a general idea of the kind of food that they need to order, raw ingredients, I should say. So every
Right.
night they could potentially be wasting quite a bit of ingredients, and as food goes bad. But in
Right.
the case of the Hungry model, these chefs with, let's say, ghost kitchens, for instance, they know exactly how many people they're going to be catering for. Everything's on the calendar, and they can more precisely have the right ingredients so there's less waste. What are
Right.
other ways that the Hungry as well as the chefs are decarbonizing the food tech industry?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to share that we just rolled out a new initiative called Carbon Neutral Delivery, which is essentially looking at not just the food waste side, which you talked about. Like we do really good with kind of eliminating food waste with this model, but the carbon impact of picking up the food and delivering it to the client side. And so we're now offsetting that. We partnered with a nonprofit to build mangrove forests in the Philippines. And so the idea is that as we add more mangroves, the amount of carbon that they sequester in a single year, in the same year, will offset the total carbon impact of the delivery. So that is one example, and I think it's kind of the first time in our industry we've seen anybody do something like that. Historically, we've always had a real focus on environmental sustainability. Our caterings use materials that we can either recycle and reuse or are fully compostable and biodegradable. So I think we've really been out in front on that as well. So we're constantly looking at ways that we can continue to innovate on enhancing environmental sustainability. We've been working behind the scenes on trying to eliminate plastic fully from our operation, but it's a really hard thing to do. So progress, but still more work to be done. But yes, I do think that every business needs to be thinking about this and focus on it. I think not just because it's the right thing to do for our planet, but also because increasingly clients are wanting that and are looking for working with the companies that are being more environmentally sustainable and so I think it's also just good business these days too.
Now, in the cities that you operate, do you guys have your own fleet, or is it outsourced? Just trying to understand the actual logistics of who's actually transporting these things and using what kind of vehicles.
Yep. Yeah. So we utilize our what we call our catering captain team, our 1099 independent contractors that utilize a mobile app that we have. So much like a DoorDash driver, is able to follow on an app, with specific directions on where to go and how to do things. So they're utilizing their own vehicles, but utilize specific equipment that we provide that helps transport the food, in airtight, containers, keeps it at temp, keeps food sort of safe and secure throughout. So that's the model that we utilize. It helps make it more efficient and provide some real advantages.
Okay. And down the road, again, we're still a few years away before internal combustion engine cars, at least for as new cars, are going to stop selling in the marketplace, and really what's going to be available is primarily EVs to the most extent by, let's say, 2030 for certain. How does that naturally, but also help accelerate the decarbonization as you think about removing the different carbon footprint in the different supply chain and the logistics?
Yeah, I hope it happens, even sooner than that, right? But we've actually looked at. There's another part of our business where we do last mile delivery of food for third party clients, and there we do have vehicles. We looked at trying to get more electric vehicles and vans. We primarily use Sprinter vans there, but they have been sort of in short supply. So that's been a little bit of a challenge in terms of adopting those. So I do think as just the general population shifts, like you said, into more EV as the standard, that'll help us too in terms of eliminating more and more carbon. So we'll certainly want to adopt as that kind of happens more and more.
We're almost out of time, but I got to ask this question, which is going back to the virtual experiences. Now that things are kind of back to somewhat normal, at least in person, how is that translating into having maybe a celebrity chef, mixologist coming into a venue, hotel, someone's house, residence, villa, and creating an environment where they get to do it in real person?
Yeah, we absolutely can do that. It's something we call the Hungry Chef Experience. I actually hosted a dinner party at my house last weekend with a Food TV network star chef who was a Cutthroat Kitchen champion and just put on an amazing show. So it's more than just having them come cook, but it's really about engaging with the guests and being able to put on, a really special experience. So what we find is that people don't want just a meal anymore, right? They want a real experience, and so we try to bring that into our catering experiences, but also we can do some really fun stuff, whether it's at home or in the office or another venue. What sets apart our event side is we can have chefs on site and really do some creative things there.
And again, I promise that was my last question, but I got to ask,
Sure.
any potential synergistic partnerships that you guys are seeking, whether it's with Airbnb, I think it's called Verbal, I believe it is. Right. So, businesses that are providing residence or place to stay, but they don't necessarily have this component of experience in food.
Yeah, it's actually a great idea. We don't work with them today. I'd say as we've really been focused more on the office side, as return to office, as we've been back building our network and our infrastructure. Last year we flexed up, we were in 5 cities pre-pandemic. We're now in 13 major markets. So I think as we build more and more of a national presence, the fit with some of those platforms, the overlap can be stronger and stronger. I think in times when we've checked, that's what they've really looked for is kind of a one-size-fit-all solution as opposed to just in certain areas.
Well, I've had a terrific conversation with Jeff Grass, CEO of Hungry, and certainly, like we talked about at the beginning, running an entrepreneurship is very much like a marathon. And thank you so much for sharing your insights and navigating these challenges. These are real difficult challenges for any businesses, but you're making it work, and you're making it work for your chefs as well as others that are participating in this larger platform. So thank you for joining today.
It's been wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed this episode, take a moment to rate our show on any podcast platform that you listen to. Scroll down to the bottom and push 5 stars. It's that easy. And as always, thanks for listening.